Welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. This podcast is a production of Swaim Strategies, a consulting firm dedicated to nonprofit fundraising events. We're coming to you today from the studios of the AV department. Please welcome our hosts, Kristen Steele and Samantha Swaim.
Hello and welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. It is official. We are 1 month away from the Elevate conference, and we hope that you already have it on your calendar and plan to join us. But Elevate is our 2-day deep dive fundraising event school, March 3rd and 4th. It is hybrid. You can join us virtually. So if you haven't registered yet and you're on the other side of the country, join us virtually or come to Portland and join us in person. We would love to have you. It is important for us to be talking about gathering right now because gathering is a way that we can rebuild community, find connection, and create trust among each other again. And so today's episode, we're going to talk about a very special gathering place and two people who are incredible gatherers who know how to bring people together. We talk a lot about what builds movements, the importance of gathering, and we talk a lot about how that can be the connection that helps us. Kristen and I believe strongly that those connections are the heart of every great movement, every religion, every social justice movement, and all of those efforts are because we connect to each other. So today we want to bring you a case study of a great gathering and introduce you to two of the best gatherers we know. Kat Topaz and Jim Abeles are the owners of Topaz Farm here in Portland on Sauvie Island. It is a regenerative farm centered on community and connection. And as a former creative director and tech entrepreneur turned farmer, both Kat and Jim serve on a number of nonprofit boards, are advocates in every way for community, but their passion sits in family farming, and they've stepped into a statewide policy conversation to support practical agritourism, rules, and economic opportunities that help farms stay viable. You know, that they didn't start as activists, but they became activists through gathering, through festivals, farm-to-plate dinners, educational programs, and everyday moments on the farm, including picking your pumpkin. They have a focus on building connection. They are artists in creating space for people to gather, to learn, and every time we have an experience on their farm, we leave transformed. So, Kat and Jim, we are so honored to have you here joining us on the show.
It's true.
Wow, thank you.
Well, thank you for making space. I think space is a valuable commodity and time together. Mm-hmm. And I know it's hard sometimes to take time away from the farm. So thank you for coming to the studio today. You've inspired us in many ways to think about the guest experience and to watch and witness how guests experience your farm. We want to be here today to share a little bit about your story to inspire others to think about how they gather, even if it's just around the dinner table with friends. So from the beginning, I want to find out a little bit just about your story and how you went from marketing and tech into farming. That's a big leap. What inspired that? What was the move?
Are you going to do this or am I?
After you.
I had sold my tech company, and I had a 2-year non-compete, I'm going to get nervous enough, you'll speak, a non-solicit, non-compete. So I basically got this 2-year window where I couldn't work. Uh-huh. And so I was playing hard. I was having a lot of fun. Jim and I had actually bought a tugboat that we were fixing up to live on. And so I was spending a lot of time working on the tugboat. And as that 2 years was wrapping up, we started looking for a place we could moor the tugboat. But in the meantime, we had moved to a floating house on Sauvie Island. And I just remember Jim just announced one day, he's like, I don't want to leave. Like, we need to find a spot on the island for this tugboat because I just want to stay here. And I also think, but you should address this because you also all of a sudden started saying things like, what am I going to do when I retire? Right? Like, we were, like, that shocked me.
Yeah, we were in our mid-50s and not wanting to retire. I don't think either of us wanted to. The idea of, like, sitting at home with a remote on a lazy boy sounds, no disrespect to anybody who loves it, but we knew it was not for us.
Plus, we loved what we were doing. We both enjoyed working. It wasn't like the grind. We liked what we were doing. And when all of a sudden Jim said, like, what's the next chapter? Like, I love change. So the second someone says, what's the next chapter? It was like, oh my gosh, right? We started like, we didn't want to sit and watch TV. We were like, well, we started looking for land, and then all of a sudden a farm came for sale. And it had waterfront where we could put the boat. And so we started talking about it. And we're like, if we ever actually owned a farm, we want to own the farm that we now have, right? It's just incredible. Every time you're on it, we have memories of taking our kids when they were little. There's just something magical about it. You know, there's a 500-year-old oak tree, right? It's this spot. Everybody feels it when you cross the bridge in the island, how your shoulders get a little bit lower. But that spot, we just always had a great time. And we went to a concert, and the farmer got up and said, "This is my last year farming." And Jim just looked at me and goes, "It's a sign. We need to go talk to him."
And the funny part is, like, later, well, careful what you wish for. Next thing you know, you own a 75-acre farm. And we ended up finding out that he gave that same speech for like 2 years at every single gathering. He was just fishing for somebody like us to come along. But we thought it was the serendipitous moment. Like, oh my gosh, we are at this one event where he's announced he's going to retire. But it's fine.
It was just waiting for you.
It was serendipitous, and that you heard
That's
the call.
true, that we
You heard
listened,
the call.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I have to say, I do feel bad because there's a lot of people that have wanted to farm their whole life, right? And it's a really important passion of theirs. Like, what do you mean you just fell into it? Like, sometimes I feel, like it makes me feel uncomfortable because we didn't have farming like in our minds.
Right.
But when Jim talked about the next chapter, we had both always had our own businesses, and we used to joke we'd never work together because it would not work, right? You can't have two bosses. And something was so magical about the idea of, we're going to go out there, we're going to learn to do this, we're going to do it together, we're going to work every day.
It's hard work too.
Well, yeah, but we don't always think things through. So when we started, it was exciting. It felt magical. And I will say, we were really lucky because so many of the farmers on the island just showed up.
Yeah.
They showed up, they'd walk the property with us, they'd tell us what land was good, what was bad, what berries we should keep, what we shouldn't.
And they could have been very judgmental here to essentially city folk who've transferred to the island. And some of these were like 5th generation farmers. And they could have, especially hearing like how idealistic we were. We were not going to do anything with chemicals. Like, we had very specific intentions for new farmers who basically didn't know what they were talking about.
But nothing worked.
And despite politics or religion or what backgrounds, like they were
They were there. They were on speed dial. They helped us so much. In fact, the woman who owned the farm, she's in her 80s. The woman who she and her husband owned the farm, he's passed on before it was sold to the farmer we bought it from, still lives adjacent to the farm. And Miss Grandy, and she came down every single late afternoon for 365 days.
That's
She would
amazing.
come, she would put her arms behind her back, she would walk, and she would tell us everything we were doing wrong. And it was like the biggest gift in the world to
Yeah.
have
I
this
bet.
guardian angel who's not going to let us get too far off
bet.
course. She was
You
there.
bet.
And like, I think that was such a, like that whole experience. I remember when our friends from Portland would come out, they'd always be like, how do you, how you're getting along with these people? Because everybody just makes assumptions, right? They make assumption we're all going to be competitive. They make assumption that we're on the opposite side politically. Like, how does this work? And I can tell you now, starting our 7th season, like everybody helps each other. And it's magic. Isn't this what everybody wants?
Yeah.
Yes.
To like work and be
what I
supported,
want.
right?
Sign me up.
And it doesn't mean like we all do it the same way.
Nope.
Right.
But I still know, and I still do, and I hope I don't drive them too crazy. I still will call and text farmers all the time to ask, how do I dry this? How do I plant this? What do you suggest about this? Constantly.
Well,
Sorry, I'm having fun thinking about this.
good.
But that magic and that
Yeah.
are the things that I feel like we're all driving for.
Right.
Right? I mean, it's why we hold space for gatherings and just to create that alchemy of people coming together for a shared purpose, whatever that purpose is. And I think for me, as a guest in your space, it translates into your placemaking on the farm. And you all do this just amazing work that if you're looking around, you can't necessarily pinpoint it, but the effortlessness of leaning into experience on the farm to me says how impeccable it is. And one of our favorite things to do every year is to come to the farm to participate in the concert series. So for folks listening from other places, Sauvie Island is about a 20-ish minute drive from Portland. So there's this kind of need to shed a little skin, right, to come out to the island to be at an event. It's not like it's just a quick down the block. There's some intention to coming, which I think is also part of the experience,
Yeah,
right?
and the magic.
There's very little reception on
And
the
there's
island.
very
Yes.
little reception. And when you put a bunch of people
that's why we love it.
taxing that little reception at a concert, it sort of falls apart, which is the best part. And so one of my favorite nights at one of the shows, I think it was not this last year, but the year before, was actually when you were talking about how the current concert lawn came to be. Like literally the intentionality and what you did to do that. And so I'm wondering, Jim, if you can talk about that a little bit, because I was completely transfixed.
Wait, can I say something before
Yeah.
he starts? The first year on the farm, like we both did everything, but we very quickly found that we were both drawn to different things. Which,
Yeah.
how lucky they were
How
different
lucky.
things.
You bet.
Yes.
You bet.
So I just want to preface that because like I spend time like actually doing like the planting, right? The farming,
Yeah.
the planting. And Jim spends more time. There's so many things that happen.
Yeah.
But he spends more time handling everything else. I like to say he does the things that make money so that I can keep farming.
It's a little bit sometimes embarrassing to talk about. Like there's this expectation, at least on the island from these traditional farmers, that the guy's going to be the farmer and the
Yeah.
woman's going to run the store or the
Yeah.
events.
Right.
And I realized after the first year, like the farming, especially doing it without chemicals and doing it regeneratively, being so new, it was so hard and there were so many failures, crop failures, bug issues, weather issues, soil problems, mysterious problems, equipment, human error, and Kat thrives on that, and I hate it. I took it so personally all the time. I was like getting more and more dejected, and she's like the type like, okay, we got a problem. Everybody, let's all huddle. Let's come up with a plan. So anyway, I realized, like any business, right? Only one person has to be the champion or the expert in any area, and she loves the farming part. And yeah, I consider myself a farmer, but it's much more fun for me to focus on the concerts and the dinners and the marketing and the business side, where I don't get sad all the time. And I do think if we knew now, we, mostly Kat, are good enough farmers, it would not be so frustrating and sad, but that first year was just rough.
bet.
It
Yeah.
was.
Oh, I
It
can only
was.
imagine.
Yeah.
Uphill. Everything was uphill.
Yeah.
So, but how the concert lawn came to be. So, year one, COVID, Governor Kotek said no concerts allowed indoors or outdoors. So, it wasn't even an option. It was great because our heads would have exploded, right?
Yes.
We were-
Right.
Yes.
No, we didn't really talk a lot about our businesses, but we were basically white collar entrepreneurs, tech/marketing. So, no retail, no restaurant business, no running a bar, catering, food service, farming, of course. And so we had to learn all those things, and I think that having live music would have been it would have put us over the top. So anyway, the first year wasn't really an issue. Second year, we figured out, okay, the governor's going to allow outdoor gatherings. Let's do a small concert series, and we found a partner, somebody who would help us with the booking, somebody who is a professional booker. She represents some big artists, but happens to be here in Portland. And we walked the farm with her, and we spent a lot of time talking about like our goals and our intentions and our hopes. And we ended up settling on the oak tree area where the dinners are now for the first year of music. And I can't remember if y'all were there that first year for music or
We
not.
weren't, but that oak tree is a magical spot. And we'll make sure for folks that are tuning in to have a photo or
Yeah.
video. You did a video actually the other day on social media that was kind of a recap of your year. And that oak tree is just magical.
It is. You could put anything under there,
Yep.
and people
Yeah.
would love it.
Yep.
But it was beautiful for concerts, but it was really, well, that first year, actually, we had some artists like Sleater Kinney who are loud, and our neighbors up over the hill, the way it was pointed, didn't really appreciate it. And we want to be good neighbors. We want this to
Yep.
be like sustainable and to be able to keep having music. And so we had a lot of conversation with neighbors. And after that first year, we talked about we're going to move the location and change the genre, and so it'd be less impact. And so we moved it to the other side of the tree. So that was year two, and it was better, but it's still, Kat likes to talk about protecting the tree, which is a really important issue, right? It's
that's
a
important.
500-year-old
Well,
Yeah.
also
tree.
because when we bought the farm, we were told the tree was 200 years old, we have had numerous arborists come out now that have confirmed that it is for sure over 500 years old. So we were like,
Can't die on our watch.
we were exactly.
Right?
We were like, and the musicians inevitably somebody would pull in with a truck and hit a branch, and we were like,
Yeah.
this is not
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
But there were like 5 other reasons. I mean, I was getting kind of annoyed at the concerts in the beginning because it was all hands on deck for 1 day a week.
Oh, yeah.
That was one day they weren't
power,
farming.
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
water,
Yeah.
like nothing. We had to take apart our grill, like the grill we have down
Yeah.
near the market, move it all up, set it up there,
Yep.
beer trailers, towable generators. I mean, just everything had to be for only doing one show a week
That whole day was dedicated
Yep.
to the show.
Yep.
at least, right?
Yep.
And so it was affecting farming.
It was, and wait, I'm sorry, I'm smiling. This is going to be hard because there's so many facets to every story. Like when we started the first year, it was COVID, and there were all the protests. There were a lot of fires, right? That year was a very, very different year than
Yeah.
we're experiencing
Yeah.
now. And so for the concerts, I think about Christian and Janelle. They are our farm to plate chefs. Well, during all of this, they basically rolled up their sleeves and said, what can we do to help?
Yeah.
So they were running the grill at the concerts.
Oh,
they
wow.
were making food to sell inside.
Yeah.
It was really like all hands on deck from every direction. Yeah, it was a lot.
So location for the concert. So year 2, other side of the oak tree, better, but still had issues, taking up too much time from farming, just pulling all of our field
Yeah.
crews literally to help set up and move things and take down, strike the stage and store everything. And we at this point had Blind Pilot and Horse Feathers had played 2 years in a row, and we became friends with
With all of them.
with those 2 artists and Luke Yidsey, who's in both of those bands. One night, he and I were walking around. I don't remember where you were.
I remember exactly because I think there was a little whiskey involved.
As with
As
most
every
good
good
things.
night.
Yeah, we have some artists like Luke and Katie who, when they come, they'll spend the night on the farm.
Yeah.
And so they spent the night on the farm, and it was the only time I was able to convince Jim to go in the corn maze. So at midnight, we are all walking through the corn maze, and I'm thinking, how incredible is our life
Yeah.
that we are
Yeah.
hanging out after an awesome concert, looking at the stars, but Jim and Luke
Drinking
kept
whiskey in the corn maze.
Luke and Jim kept disappearing towards where the cottonwoods are, towards where the concerts are that you know. And you had known from back then because he kept asking, like, from an artist's perspective, like, is this a better spot? And what
Yeah.
about this? And you guys were like getting into the weeds.
Yeah, I wanted to hear his take. Having played at
Yeah.
farm for a couple of years and outdoors, and as a touring musician, and we talked about like basically where the sun is and where it would be for the audience,
yeah.
and what the whole experience would look like, and which is related to, and we'll hopefully talk about like partners and trusting like people who know more than you and that you
Right.
trust and respect. And so anyway, there might have been alcohol involved, but we managed to have like a thoughtful conversation. And that was kind of the beginning. And so I had in my head that that really would be like where it is now would be a
Yeah.
special spot. It had a lot of work to do. That area used to be the dump zone for the previous owner. He would take money for people to dump like rubbish, garbage, rocks. There was all sorts of stuff there, and so it was a little
We
bit.
nicknamed it the biohazard zone.
Okay.
Which I hadn't said out loud because I didn't want people to be freaked out, but it literally was
It was a dump site, yeah.
And so
He also had a bunch of people living there who we had to evict. There were a
Yeah.
bunch of people that were like working at. He had a cannabis grow, and so his crew were living in trailers and tents and campers, and so it's kind of a mess of an area.
Well, and so from the beginning, we started to clean up that area, and we knew we were going to wait a few years before we planted anything there. We
Sure,
were really
yeah.
like, how do we clean it up?
Yep.
Make sure the soil is where it should be.
So we got it ready enough, not for a concert lawn, but we were going to plant strawberries, lots and lots of strawberries, acres of strawberries there. And I was starting to have a little anxiety because I know that once you do that, that field's gone for years. And
Yeah.
so if we were
it is
ever
now a strawberry field forever.
going, right, if we were ever going to have that field for concerts, I better say something to Kat. And she had the crews ready. She had all the stuff, like
We were
the
ready.
plans, like ready to go. And it was going to be the next morning. And I was like, I'm going to have to broach this subject with her. And I don't remember what I said, but I
Yeah,
think it was
you-
something like, I have something really serious to talk to you about.
Yeah, and I've only heard him say that sentence like a handful of times. So when I heard I want to talk to you about something, I couldn't have even guessed.
And so it wasn't that crazy, but I said, like,
No strawberries.
What would you think about if we had the concerts there and we don't plant tomorrow and we figure out something else?
Oh.
But the beauty
Heartache.
is, Kat loves chaos, right?
Oh,
She's
stop
not
that. No, I
she
mean,
thrives on
he-
change and
He
creative.
laid out all the reasons why, and it made sense. And I was just like, I can't believe it. Like, we were ready. Can't believe it. It's okay. We coped. We planted them elsewhere. We made it work. But I think that's one of the things. I think that what we do well is we're nimble. We can change all the time. You know, and I think like we just sold Christmas trees for the first time, and we saw how it went Saturday, and we quick redid everything before Sunday because, like, you just watch and look and see what is going to be the best experience, right? Or how's it going to flow the best? And it made sense for the music to be where he wanted because we would no longer have a day of setup.
Yep.
It was close enough for
It
people
was
to
just
walk.
right there.
Yeah.
It made it. Folks would be in the shade, especially the artists, right from the beginning. Like everything that he had figured out, it was like, it's the right choice.
It's the right choice.
Yeah, it's the right choice.
But it wasn't just the right choice for the concerts. You then transformed this like biohazard field into like the lawn itself is an experience.
I think they want to know about the rocks.
I do.
But
Because
also-
I want other people to know.
the circle, the design, the staging.
So-
like you've been very thoughtful about this. Now, once you decided this is the concert lawn, this wasn't going to just be a place where you set a stage.
It's not like you rolled out sod and said,
Yeah, but you
have
know
at
what?
it.
We thought about it.
Fair.
We did have that conversation, didn't we?
We did.
I was going to say we use Google Maps a lot, and we could see exactly how big that space is, and it's misleading. It is far larger than the other areas we had music, and so if you notice the circle, it was actually to contain it so
Yeah.
people wouldn't feel lost. It wouldn't feel like it was too large.
Right. Because that's something about community and being at a show. If you're too spread out, it doesn't feel right.
Yep.
And so we wanted to, we did a lot of measuring, calculating about space. And actually, this is year 4 of music. So we'd also had shows on the Great Lawn. So we'd had different areas.
Right.
We kind of knew how many we wanted to have, how we would want to kind of, not too tight, right? Because
Yep.
people don't want to be crammed in, and we don't have to. But we wanted it to, for them, and then also for the artists looking out, see people that it felt like a full crowd for them. And so we were I had convinced her to move on with the strawberries, which worked out, and maybe even better for where
No,
they-
because remember all the deer.
Yeah, there's that. Okay, it didn't work out better for that, but it did work out better for music. And we were getting ready to plant, and then I'm walking the grass seed, walking the field. I was like, this doesn't feel right, and started like all these rocks were like, as the dirt was settling or the rocks like rising to the surface.
A lot that were like gravel size from probably the dumping of stuff, right?
smaller than like fist size, and just littered everywhere.
Everywhere.
You dig up a little
Yeah.
bit, you thought maybe
Yeah.
there's just one on the surface, dig a little bit deeper. So we ended up spending like maybe hundreds of people hours and removing thousands of rocks manually from the field. To get it so that it would be smooth, because we want it right. You want to be barefoot, or you want to be, you want it to be a comfortable, safe place to walk on, especially for the all-age shows as kids. So anyway, that was another
I'm laughing because I remember
barrier.
I remember like all the kids. So I call them kids. We have a diverse staff, but we have a lot of
High
like,
school
teenagers
students,
that
yeah.
might be
Yeah.
their first job.
Yeah.
And so I think it was Peyton and maybe Warren and Ellie the first pass. So we have 3 kids with their 5-gallon buckets.
And you're selling them
they're
on this
walking-
idea. Clear the rocks.
They're going back and forth, right? They spent the entire day picking up rocks, and then we thought it was great. And Jim goes to look, and he's like, "We got to do it again." So I think that's when we had like Luis and Manuel.
We brought in crews like day laborers, like from nearby farms, other farmers, to come and just comb and you got thousands of them out of there.
But that was just the start. So we finally got enough rocks out that we felt like you could sit on the lawn and it would be comfortable. And that's when Jim, oh gosh, I don't even know how to say this. We spent more focused energy trying to grow the perfect lawn than everything else on the farm combined. It was like he became obsessed with, this is going to be so comfortable. And like, but it was already what, March or April? How are we
Right.
going to get grass up in time for June?
Which we did briefly. Like, do we look at sod?
Yeah.
The cost for like that size.
Yeah.
It's
So like you met with like a grass seed operation to get like all their best tips. We sprinkled in clover. He literally had it down where he would like have the guys turn on the irrigation for like 10 minutes. And then what, twice a day, 10 minutes?
Right.
Right? Like it was so controlled that this was going to be perfect that I still have. In fact, Fiona said to me just this week, she's like, do you remember when? She was like, I was so scared that wasn't going to grow and Jim was going to kill us. Because like he was he knows how many things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
And he was like, this is going to work.
Yeah.
Well, it did. And the experience that we have going there. So, for listeners who haven't been to Topaz Farm, you come in and there is a grill and a beautiful picnic lawn on one side. And then there is this concert lawn that is a perfect circle. So, there's actually like a lot of neuroscience around the perfect circle removes hierarchy and actually builds community faster. And you have this perfect circle that you've created with this perfect clover lawn with no rocks.
I think you don't have a soul if you don't take your shoes
You
off.
can
when
kick
you're
off
there
your
to stand on
shoes.
it.
Now we have an entire community that's like grounding themselves and putting like city folk, right? Like grounding their feet onto the grass and like connecting with real earth for maybe the first time in a long time.
Point.
And then you planted this huge, beautiful second circle around. How deep is that, the wildflower circle?
Yeah, parts of it, because the space it's not quite a square, and so parts of it go, probably over 100 feet of wildflowers.
So
Right.
hundreds,
And sunflowers.
hundreds of feet that perfectly encompass with these flowers that bloom in perfect succession from May to September, October. There is like a different bloom happening every single time we are there.
Right.
And you walk in and you get your cider or you get your beer and you get your yummy, fresh from the farm food and you go sit on the perfect lawn. And then you have this beautiful stage that you've intentionally designed too, with like the trees lit behind it. And it's created an experience that I think is probably impacting your guests more than you may realize. But your intentionality is so present in it.
That's really lovely to hear. I
is
mean,
nice to hear.
I feel like those nights, like we're so focused on working and making sure there are no problems or putting out little fires. It's often hard to like sit and take that in or feel it.
Well, this year we noticed another shift that happened. So when we're training a lot of people on how to like best set up their event to be successful, one of the things we talk about is staging. And I don't mean the stage that the concert's on. I mean how people are prepared to come to the event. And you all did a big change this year. So I noticed when I came in, first of all, I was getting email communications from you in advance about what to expect, what to bring, what not to bring. Then when I was arriving, there were like color indicators with beautiful gourds you had painted that now late at night I was going to find my car in the blue gourd lot versus the green gourd lot. And then you created these beautiful walkways and arches to make getting through the parking lot safer, easier. You have these high school students that are like welcoming people with the great, like they're so excited at every concert to bring people in and usher them safely home as they leave. The like experience of coming in, including all the volunteers and all the staff that you have that, you know, check tickets and check bags and direct you to food. And you've created something that I think is like helping people to go from Portland, cross that bridge onto the island, start to breathe for a minute, get onto the farm and just be like ushered so easily into participating into an experience, which is powerful, especially as a person who loves to like take advantage of getting away for a minute and getting out. I mean, the number of times that we come early just to like sit on the lawn and watch the sunset and watch the birds, and it's a beautiful space.
It's lovely.
That's lovely.
Well, Kat, you know her background. We didn't really talk about her backgrounds, but design and branding, super strong in those areas, and the gourds and the colored rose was your idea. the communication. I mean, Kat tends to design things. I tend to write things, and those. By the way, it's really lovely that you read the email.
We do.
And I know that
It prepares
many
us.
people don't.
What to know before you go.
You're right. Know before you
Right?
go. Like I want it because we want it to be like a really positive experience, right?
Yeah.
And if we can nip problems in the bud beforehand, so
Yep.
people don't bring their dogs or their cigarettes or outside booze, like those kind of interactions.
We got plenty of inside booze for you here.
Exactly. Those interactions are a drag, right? Like
Yeah.
we want it to be like a happy experience
Yeah.
from the time you arrive, which also I know that people new to the farm, it's like stressful. Where am I going to go? How do I park? Where is there going to be food, right? So those kind of communications hopefully make it so that everybody's happier when they arrive, and they can get in easily, get through the bag check without having any frustrations or disappointments. And so it's a lot about I don't want to say selfishly for ourselves and our staff wanting it to be more positive and not having to have like chase people around, but it's better for the customers if they know before,
Yeah, but okay, so
if they read.
Sure. Yeah.
there's a lot, I think you could say there's a lot of things where we're similar, but there's just as many things where we're different.
Yeah.
And so, like, I am that person that never reads. In fact, I just noticed when Jim's like, what's the address? I was like, oh, I never read the email you guys sent in November. I can show it's not even read yet, right? Because he already told me about it. There was no reason to read it.
Yeah.
I am the one that doesn't read. You're the one that reads everything. And I think what we realized pretty quickly is that's the public too.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
are never going to read.
Yeah.
And some are so grateful to have that. And so each year we realize, how can we make it like, you can't just say something once. You're going to have to show it in
Yeah.
lots of ways. And you don't want people to feel dumb, and you want people to not be like, oh, I didn't know there were burgers over there. I didn't see that. So you want to set it up so that you don't miss out something that you want. And so we're constantly like this back and forth, even like I love that the know before you go, because
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
you write one for everything. Somebody could be coming to do garlic braiding and they get that before they come, right? But I think we're constantly going back and forth and like, how do we make things more clear?
Well, that shows up too in like your signs, the directional, like you have so many different ways that people can see and participate that help people through the experience. So they don't have to know like, oh, we intentionally moved the playground or we have a new bathroom over here. It's, you have directions, you have traffic monitors that are like directing people, and volunteers are so happy to be there that are like, oh, right over there. And it creates this neurological impact for folks to be able to actually relax. Nice. It like tells your brain it's safe. They know what they're doing. If it was chaos, if I got there and like cars were hitting each other in the parking lot and no one knew how to get to the concert ground, then my brain says, don't relax, pay attention. And you just create this environment in that I think is like doing more for the human experience, creating ease for your team, but also like creating a nicer guest because they get there and they're like, oh.
Well, and also it allows people to lean into the experience at hand, right? You all,
Be present.
whether you know it or not, with your intentionality, are removing the friction. So, our whole day is friction and decision
Absolutely.
points. And so this allows people to come and lean into an experience. It also becomes part of the greater story that I think Topaz is telling in terms of creating this space for people to come. And I think storytelling is a big element of things that you do. I think it shows up in the activities that happen at the farm. We were out with a young friend on a hayride, and Jim, you got on and told the story about what we were doing and why you were so grateful we were there. And in that storytelling moment, you and the farm came alive for us as a family, supporting a family and being in community together. But it also made it that we knew we were doing things right and we were having the experience we should be having. And so I think the storytelling piece for you all is significant. And I'm wondering if it feels that way to you or if you're just doing what it is you do.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I keep thinking about how that first year really kind of pointed us down a path that we have continued since then. And like I said, when we bought the farm, we thought we were going to focus on farming. And then with COVID and with the all these folks that are working, like they're working remotely, they're going to school remotely. We started seeing some people that would come like every morning to get a cup of coffee, or every weekend with their kids to have a slice of normalcy, be able to run around and be near other people, but be safe.
Yeah.
And so at that moment, we made an active, that was, I think, the most active we really thought about it. We were like, how do we make the farm feel like you could come every day if you want, and you don't have to spend money? And that was when we started getting animals, because I actually said to Jim, no animals. I didn't know how we could take on everything we took on and take on animals, because you have to be like the vet, the mom, you know. So we started getting more animals so that people with kids knew they could just come and pet the pig, or they could come and, see the goats. And so that's when we decided to do more things that, like, oh, let's do like story time. We love taking our kids to story time. So let's do a tractor talk, and we'll do an animal talk. And we did these things like intentionally trying to make people know you can come more than just once a year to get your pumpkin. Like, you can come. And so when people do come out for music, we feel like there's a lot of folks that don't usually come here tonight. So how do we do our best to let them know, there is a market full of produce, know? Because it's shocking to us how many people are like, I had no idea you have a market. And so, like, how can we always talk about, I guess because that first year, we always talk about how the most important thing for folks coming out is to be able to recharge, right? To be able to sit and do nothing. To see a bald eagle fly over, to like just be able to exhale. And I think most people would agree, we get together for meals, right? Holidays, birthdays, you get together, you break bread, you're with folks. But like, I don't know how many people take a moment to like exhale. And so we decided really quickly, like, when you come to the farm, we are not going to remind you about all the things that are wrong with the world. And whether it's the things wrong with the world, or you're dealing with cancer, or your loved one is dealing with cancer, or we all have so much that we're dealing with, that we thought our contribution is, you get a couple hours, you don't have to think about anything. And so that's really, you have to actively do that, though.
Yeah.
Because,
Yes, you do.
for example, there'll be a concert or something where maybe a couple kids decide to go crazy and start throwing drinks at animals and start doing things that are unacceptable, right? And so we're like, we painted this one sign. We're like, you must watch your kids at all every moment, or we're gonna kick you out. Like, we were so like, wait, that's not really the way that we're gonna get this to work. So how can we restructure things to avoid the things that are going to go sideways, right? And so we're constantly, with each event and each year, like, iterating a little bit, right?
But you missed Kristen's question about storytelling.
Oh,
You'll take over for me. Right? Storytelling, well, we started doing these, you started to talk about, we do these different things, right? Like every week in summer, we do the animal walk with Farmer Cat, or the tractor talk with Farmer Jim, story time with Keeley. We do the workshops, canning, jamming, pickling,
garlic braiding,
arranging, ways to connect people with the farm. And I think those are all loosely forms of storytelling. And because Kat and I, we're so lucky. This is our retirement, right? Like, we're not rich, but we have a lifetime of savings and experience in business, and having started and run and sold companies, that they gave us a cushion so that we could afford to do this without like always thinking about how we're going to make money. We do have to make money because it has to be sustainable.
Absolutely.
We don't want to keep, with the first 3 years, we lost a lot of money. And then we turned the corner, and the last 3 years are each year gets a little bit better. And so we do always think about,
I know what you're going to say.
I don't know.
About what we would like, or what our grandkids
two
would
things,
like,
right? I mean, the two things, right? We think, like, if we were going to this farm, what would we like? If we were coming with our adult kids, or with our grandkids, or ourselves, we would want to be more connected to the farmers, ideally, and to the land, and be learning and interacting, and not just coming to buy something in the store and leaving, but like, what can we do to connect people more to the farm? And so we think those experiences are impactful and meaningful and memorable, and that's what is going to help carry us and allow us to be sustainable, not depending on people just to come buy some cheap produce and leave, but hopefully come and have an experience. And so, yeah, and the other thing we're always thinking besides, we're always trying to think of, what would somebody coming here want to do as an adult, as a grandparent? What would the kids want to do? And, we're not accomplishing all of those things, but over 6 years, we keep adding and adding, and hopefully we're making progress.
Well, one of the stories that or one of the ways you share story, you have so many ways you share story. Like, I want to talk about the pumpkin gazebo this year and the store, and you have so many ways you tell stories. But one of the ways you told stories this year was something that was really profound and moving to us, which was before your concerts, you got up and shared a story about the community you're in. You get up and share a story about the artists and why you invited them to the farm, about your team. And this year you shared about agritourism and a shift that was happening that was going to be a legislative initiative that was going to really impact small family farmers we live in a very farm-heavy state, and it was going to be a statewide impact. And you got up and shared the story that we needed to advocate for what felt like some minor rule changes was going to have a major impact on whether or not agritourism and family farms could continue to thrive. And that changed a whole bunch of stuff in this state and mobilized people in a way that was profound. Can you talk a little bit just about like what happened as a result of that?
Well, it's funny too, because we really wrestled with how we were going to talk about it on stage. There were a couple times when I said to Jim, I don't think we should talk about it because people need to come out and exhale. And so we didn't want to like bring everybody down. So we really wrestled with the message. But we also were like, if these changes that are being proposed happen, we're not going to be here anymore. Mm-hmm. And we have so many customers that are all often saying like, what can we do to help? And so I'm trying to think, did we talk about it before the video?
We had started to talk about how we wanted the agritourism laws to change to be better for
Everybody
everyone.
else. Okay.
Because it's not fair the way it's set up right now. It's very antiquated. We're allowed to have, say, farm-to-table dinners, but our next-door neighbor is not.
We're allowed to do music, but most are not.
Right. There are all these, and basically the law was poorly set up at the state level, and then at the county level, it's interpreted differently and not equitably. And so we were starting to talk about that, just about how we're hoping to get some change there and make it better. Not just for other farmers. I mean, we're the lucky ones. We're not necessarily.
We are definitely the lucky
We were not
ones.
thinking necessarily about ourselves at that point, but
Right.
about others. Now that just our experience and what we've seen.
And how on earth is someone able to afford to start farming if they're not like our age and put aside, their life savings and sold their home and did everything that we could do? You can't do that at 25 or at 30.
Right.
And the more we farm, the more we understand. Like Oregon likes to say they're a farm state. We don't grow enough in Oregon to feed Oregonians. So we might grow a lot of grass seed, or we might grow like a lot of things that get shipped out, but we can't feed ourselves. And to me, that is, that's kind of like why are the alarms not going off?
It's a liability.
Right?
It's a retailer's liability.
And like, there are so many rules that people, I don't think, would believe us if we told them. There's literally rules on the books at the state level that you cannot have field trips come to a farm. We've been grandfathered, right? We're like, how is this good that folks can't come to farms? We want more people to come to farms to know where their food comes from. We want more people to have this exposure. Even some of the kids that came to work for us just as a summer job I'm thinking about Grace specifically, like decided to switch what she was studying in college and go off into agriculture. I mean, like our youngest is off in college right now to do animal sciences. It's like, this is good for the state. This is good for everybody. And so we had met with the governor, like a year or two ago? We'd met with the governor, and we've been working with other farmers, and we were trying to, get the rules changed. And the governor, because it didn't happen during the legislature that year because there were so many bills or whatnot, the governor tried to help by having this one group, the Department of Lands Conservation
And Development,
and
DLCD.
Development, make it so that the rules were more clear, and so they'd be more equitable. And so I remember, like, right before they put out their first draft of proposals, I remember customers coming up saying, "Is there anything we can do?" And I'm like, "No, everything's great. Everything's in the right direction."
It's happening.
Right? And then all of a sudden, DLCD put out the first set of rules. And
Their first proposed set of rules. And they were potentially disastrous. And we don't need to get into the details of them. They were bad for us. They were bad for other agritourism farms in the Portland area. And they were bad for, we think, any small family farm or existing agritourism farm in the state. And we were pretty freaking out.
yeah, well, so Meg,
Don't worry, we won't tell anyone.
so Meg does video every week of the farm to help us have content for social. And she was at the farm, and she's like, let me just video you guys talking about why these are so bad, or explain it. And it was funny because had I known that 5 million people were going to watch the video, I probably would have showered or worn like different clothes. But literally, she was like, "Let's go in the pumpkin field, or let's go somewhere so there's like a field behind you." And she was like, "Explain the rules." And I felt like, I don't know about you, but I felt like I was like all tongue-tied and nothing was coming out right. And it's so hard because you'd have to explain, you'd have to like basically educate you first
Yeah.
to explain
Yeah.
why this is so bad. And I felt like we were fumbling. And then all of a sudden, I guess something you said or Meg said, I was like, I forgot that the camera was on.
Yeah.
And I was just like talking to you guys. And that's when I started crying. And then I say that because Jim likes to start every concert with, "How many of you have seen my wife cry?" And all of a sudden I think it just came across differently because people could feel what we were feeling. And so she put that video up, and like, it
So
took
we just
off.
thought we were talking to our own customers, right? We
Yeah.
wanted
Right,
to create what would eventually, and Cass not exaggerating, it's almost up to 5 million views.
Yeah,
at this
you were
point.
talking to your own customers for like a minute, and then
And then it
How
took
did
off.
how did it, like, did we put it like on just
We
Instagram?
Put, yeah, we
I
put it on
remember now.
Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and it just it touched the nerve with people. And
And not just people, but a whole bunch of other farms started posting. And that's really important because a lot of them, we all know each other, right?
Yep.
And a lot of them had given us the advice when we first got the farm in 2020. They said, keep your head down. We know these rules don't work. Just keep your head down, because the way it is the county and state basically could shut any of us down.
Right.
We're all out of compliance. And so, like, keep your head down. And so when we did this, we felt like we had nothing to lose because we were going to be out of business anyway. And to see other farmers immediately do their videos, it felt really, really, I don't know.
yeah, it took
felt
a day or
amazing.
two, and honestly, I felt a little isolated and on one hand, people started immediately commenting and sharing it, and the comments were really lovely. Like they were like,
They were.
"We love farms. We believe in agriculture. Like, this is terrible. What can we do?" And then it just started spreading, and honestly, a couple of days later, it started to get a little bit political, and
Yeah.
some of the comments got pretty out there. But it was just taking off. And like Kat said, I mean, it wasn't good audio or video or the way we looked, like the whole thing. And it wasn't scripted. It was just like one cut. Let's just go out there and talk about our concerns. But it touched a nerve because people like going to farms, or they want to support farms. This is my take. And they don't necessarily trust the government to come up with what's best for farms. And I just think that it touched a nerve, and people started, we ended up hearing about like the Lombard House in North Portland that organized like a letter writing party. And
Some of the musicians in town were stopping in the middle of their sets and asking people to write.
Amazing.
It was amazing. And I think the part that made it extra special is a lot of people took the time to write. The governor's office said that they got more than 2,000 letters, right, or emails. And she jumped in and shut it down by
Friday.
Yeah, so within a couple days it was done. And it felt so incredible that all these people that took the time, not just to like watch it, but took the time to write and do something about it, got to see that their voices mattered.
Yes.
We made a difference. Like we stopped
You did,
it.
yeah.
It's not over, but like hopefully now it will be way more transparent. There'll be way more people at the table. It was hard. I hated what followed, because what followed was, a couple special interest groups came and attacked us and loved to like come after us. I don't actually read the stuff because he knows I can't handle it. But they did come after us, and man, it's crazy. Like, it's crazy to see how things work, right?
Well,
and I think there's a lot of rules that were created with the right intentions.
Yeah.
But things can go sideways.
Well, and I think to me, what got so sticky, we were sort of with you on the journey that week, right? And way out here as people who come and enjoy the farm. And I think it was the earnestness with which you all came to the table, and in real time sort of showcasing the unknown of what that meant for you and so many other farms that you're in community with and advocating for. But what was so great about that moment was that you invited folks to have an avenue to take action, who could see that story and who feel like, maybe I feel like there's distance between me and farming because I don't farm in that way, but I believe it should happen, and I believe your place is a space that should exist. How can I step in and do that? And so I think it was just this alchemy that allowed the space you create and invite other folks into, and invited you to tap them in that way to say, we all want this to exist. Here's what you can do to help make that happen. And I think, to me, that's what the best spaces and hosts and gatherings and we-ness can do together, is sort of the confluence of all of that. So it's like all of those folks who picked up rocks in that field, it starts way back there. It starts way back, and then it all becomes that we have this moment where we've had all these experiences together, and we get to call on each other in community to do those things. And I am always struck when I'm out at the farm for an event, you all greet everybody as they come onto the farm. And I know you've been running your butts off for days and all night. And the two of you send everybody out. You say goodnight to everybody on their way out to the parking lot. And there is something to me that is so unique about that in this day and age, if I can sound old and say that, right? Like, the world sometimes seems to be about distance between all of us. How is it in that moment for you, after everything, to still be like, okay, let's buck up and go say goodbye to everybody?
We love it.
We do love it.
Yeah.
It's like, sometimes we'll get busy, taking care of something. We're like, shoot, people are leaving, come on. It's kind of like when we opened up and told everybody about the problem. Like, you can't tell everybody that there's this issue and then not allow them to know the updates and not allow them in, right? Well, if we're not at the door saying goodbye to everybody, how do we know if someone didn't have a good time or if somebody really wished we did something differently? And we're grateful. We're super grateful, because one of the things we haven't really mentioned is we could not afford to farm if we didn't have folks coming to music or coming to the dinners. Like, we could not do what we love, or at least what I love, we cannot do without these. This makes it sustainable.
We could farm, but with chemicals and
Which we're
big
not gonna
machinery
do.
and monocrop,
Which we're not gonna do.
the type of farming that we want to do, and the way we want to pay living wages to our field workers, and the way we want to donate space to different not-for-profits, and like, we would not be able to do if people weren't coming to events like that and helping subsidize the farm.
Right.
And so, like you talked about, that I got up on the hay ride. I'm addicted to thanking people. Like, I love it, because I feel it. So you probably seen or heard me like get teary. Like, I'm such a sucker for it. I feel so like connected and lucky, and so want to just thank people personally, because they are keeping us in business, and they're allowing our workers to be paid well. They're allowing these other experiences to, the whole sustaining and then self-sustaining, and they're allowing this to take place. And so I love greeting the people if I can at the beginning of the concert nights. That's a little tough. There's always like a bunch of fires to put out. But I love at the end to be able to like try to thank people as they leave. And not everybody wants to be thanked. Like, some people are like,
Get me to my car.
laser focused. Like, who are these people talking
But
to
they're
me?
definitely
They don't
a
wanna-
minority. Most people and just had a great time.
And then we end up meeting lovely people like you. I think that's when we really talked to you at a couple shows the most, and like getting to know and make connections with people, right? Like, it might be easy just to, I think I'm an introvert at heart, and it'd be really easy just to like go and do something behind the scenes and stay busy cleaning up so I could go home. But it's, it's this really, and I think we've done it pretty much for every show. Like, luckily, all the crises or whatever the fires put out aren't happening then, and so we're able to go, and it's just.
Plus, we have an incredible team.
And lastly, and we haven't really talked about, we live there, right? This is literally our home, and so y'all are
the
guests.
tugboat thing didn't happen.
Y'all are guests in our home. Everybody who's there are guests, and we feel not just thankful to them for supporting the farm, but also just a connection. It's so nice to try to make eye contact and thank people as they go out.
Well, it feels that way. Like, it feels like we're being invited into your home. And we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, I want to talk about some of the other things that happen at the farm. We've been talking about the concert series, but I want to talk about some of the other things. So we'll be right back.
Ready for your hard work to yield more funds at your next event? Join us at Elevate, a nonprofit fundraising event conference designed to bring our community together and make planning successful events easier. Register today for this hybrid conference on March 3rd and 4th, 2026 in Portland, Oregon, or join us online from anywhere. This isn't just another conference. You'll walk away with battle-tested strategies, hands-on tools, and proven templates that top fundraisers use to raise millions. Your mission deserves fully funded success. Register today at swaimstrategies.com.
Well, welcome back. We are here with Kat and Jim, farmers at Topaz Farm, who are also just like the most gracious leaders of we, and you usher in and invite people into your home with we. I feel like that is just something you all embrace so beautifully. Before the break, we were talking about the video that went viral, the storytelling you did on the stage, and the sort of like stop to legislative change that could have caused a lot of damage. I want to give just a little bit of a frame for that for people. You posted the video, I think, on a Tuesday. Mm-hmm. I think it was viral by Wednesday. You had a concert, I think, Wednesday night. Am I right? Or was it Thursday night? You had a concert that really close.
At least one that week.
Mm-hmm. And at that concert, you brought your entire team to the stage and said, these are all the people that will be impacted with us. And you just said a couple of short remarks. It was short
because I started crying like a baby. I really didn't think I'm not a public.
I thought it was charming.
It was, and it is. You allowed us and invited us to take action. Right.
I just wish I wasn't such an ugly crier.
But it showed the import.
Yeah,
it showed
did.
the weight of
that. It was
the
important.
weight of what you were contending with.
I didn't think I was going to. It hit me, and we love our staff so much. Like, we call them our summer kids. Some of them call us their summer parents.
They are too.
And the full-time year-round ones, the field crew, the kids, and just getting up there and thinking about what it would be like to lose all of them. It hit me.
We've been married 25 years. It was the third time I've ever seen him cry. Oh. And then that seal had been broken.
I'm getting a little teary right now.
So Tuesday, Wednesday viral, Thursday concert, Friday it's done.
Friday was over.
Friday it's over.
The governor stepped in.
And here's what happened in the middle of that.
Okay.
You mobilized a whole community that you'd been supporting and inviting in. They went and fought for you. Like every call, every letter, you talked about letter writing campaigns in the community, musicians making a call to action from the stage, asking their fans to call the governor, call the legislators. You also mobilized all these other farmers who got brave and got on TikTok for the first time and told their stories. It was the first time I'd seen my content in social media go from like animals and fields to people talking about their story and their land and how important this was. And within like 4 days, you totally changed the conversation. But you did that because of the fact that you have been inviting people in. The people really are invested in your place that you've created, but also invested in the two of you, and that you are willing to share your story. That's powerful. And that's like how, to me, that's how gathering can be super transformative, is that we build community together. We create a sense of trust. We create a sense of like shared identity. Like if you were to ask me my favorite place in Portland, it's your farm. Like I've lived here for several decades. This is my home. You exemplify the possibility of the best of Portland, which I just love. Like so protecting that is so valuable. Yeah. And we so often hear of the problem, but rarely do we get an opportunity to be a part and take action. And we dive into neuroscience a lot, but to in the like depths of that, action creates a sense of like relief, right? Like we can all feel like we did something. Yeah. We can all feel like we were a part of something.
Mm-hmm. And they were rewarded with something. Like, when does that ever happen where
That's right.
Like you take the time and you are heard and the governor steps in and shuts it down? Like, that was like the best possible outcome. Not just for ourselves, but for the thousands of people who took the time to email and call and write. And like that was. And
so now we can always come to your concert series. But you also mentioned something before the break, which said, we're not just a place for cheap vegetables. I want to highlight that cheap vegetables are a hot commodity these days, because nothing is cheap in the food market these days. And you all are doing sustainable farming, inviting people in to this beautiful market. I love your market. You guys have done so much work on the storytelling and the experience in the market.
The merchandising is beautiful.
It is beautiful. But you bring people around a table on a regular basis, and you have transformed the oak tree to no longer be your concert lawn, but now to be your dinner series. Can you talk about the dinner series and the power of breaking bread together as a community?
Yeah, I'll start. Kat will interrupt. We knew we wanted to do dinners, and so brand new farmers just acquired the land, trying to figure out what do we do first, how are we going to do anything, and actually COVID maybe
was just starting.
Maybe it hadn't. Yeah, we were interviewing different chefs, potential chefs to partner with.
No, it had started because I remember you said, there's some flu, but we don't have time. We're busy.
Right. I was like, don't worry, it's just another flu in China. It's not going to.
Right, it's passing by. We'll be fine. Yeah. And Stop watching TV.
Yeah, exactly. So we were interviewing chefs, and each one we were like, oh yeah, that could work. And then we ended up meeting the husband and wife who've been the resident chefs since then, Christian and Janelle Ephraim. And they came in, and they just relocated from Las Vegas, where they were working for Spago and Restaurant Guy Savoy. So each of them a Michelin star restaurants, and a real legitimate background that far exceeded our farming experience. And we spent this hour or two with them on this blustery, miserable day. But we were so wowed by them, you could tell they were just so they had they got what we wanted to do, and they had their own vision, and they were professional and experienced. And at the end of it, you said to me,
I said, there's no way we can hire them.
They're too good for us.
We're not ready. We hadn't survived one season yet. And if we're going to be growing the food that they're going to be cooking, we just can't. We're not there yet.
So they took a leap of faith with us.
You just ignored me clearly. No, I can't even remember how you changed my mind, but we said, let's do this.
And they ended up being, now 6-year partners and friends. And so I think set us in a direction of quality food on the farm, and not just for those dinners, but the market. Because think back to 2020, their experience, they wanted to also be caterers here in Portland. Well, there's no catering in 2020. And so they said, what could we do to help the farm? And that first year, we experimented. They made so many great foods for the market, from the donuts and savory ham pies, sweet ham pies, and kale chips and spinach pasta.
Right.
All sorts of things and many of those which we still have, but it was a great quality elevated.
But that was another first experience for folks when they came in the market and they got food made by Christian and Janelle. This was not like what you're going to get at the grocery store. This was made with love, and it really helped us quite a bit.
And they also, as Kat mentioned before, they helped out doing the grill and for our concerts and for actually the. I can't remember if it was year 1 or 2, but they've done a tremendous amount of things. And
they came and helped us plant strawberries.
That's true. Yeah,
everybody kind of
And they helped. They created. They've provided you or us with what are they hoping we grow. They can think in advance to know what they're hoping to use that year, and so they're involved with the planning. They've helped with the planting, harvesting. They've helped we think they really helped elevate and let the farm be known as a quality place for food, whether it's the grown food or the prepared food.
Right.
And then the dinners. So that first year that
Yeah,
we
you
did
gotta,
it.
you tell the story at the very first dinner, because the very first dinner is the only dinner in the 6 years that we didn't sit down to eat at. We've now sat at every one.
Yeah. So it started in 2020, and of course all the tables were spread out, and it was mostly like two tops and,
Restaurant style.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's COVID, and everybody was like 20 feet apart. It wasn't even 10. We had so much room. There's so much space, and it was so quiet, serene. But anyway, Kat and I, like, once we got like everything ready and we helped with all the setup and the seating, then we're like, well, now what do we do? And we hadn't like thought to eat at the meal ourselves, and so we basically hid behind the oak tree and watched.
We kept peeking.
And we're like,
I love the visual.
see, like, how's it going? And then I think like halfway through being creepy behind the tree, we're like, why don't we book a spot for ourselves at the upcoming ones?
I still remember, though, when they brought out the first course, it was a crab and cheese stuffed squash blossom that we had just picked all those squash blossoms,
cool.
and he had like put it in this like tempura, like kind of seared it real fast. I don't know, I'm not saying it right. And these came out, and the feeling of like, we grew that, it survived, we harvested it, and now he's turning it into like magic. Like it was like, this is incredible. But we did switch from that night, and we always have had a seat ever since, which is funny now that we didn't think that that's what we do, because now we will, in fact, in the beginning, Christian and Janelle brought in professional servers that they had worked with. They brought in their staff, right? And pretty quickly we realized we didn't need professional servers. I mean, they might have needed it because they're trying to pull this off. We're like, we needed to have folks that worked on the farm be the servers. And I don't know how quickly we figured that out. I think it's maybe like there were a couple dinners that they were like, do you have anybody that can help us? And we realized how much the folks that would come to eat loved talking to people that help plant on the farm or help do this or help do that. And so now
and the folks on the farm, it's a coveted job. They love, not just because it's a beautiful experience to be a part of and work at, but they also get to eat the food at the end.
Awesome. Christian makes enough so that when the meal's done, then everybody
amazing.
eats. And that was like one of those aha moments where we realized like people want connection even to the server.
Yeah.
And when we do the seating chart, it's kind of like a little like Tetris, right?
Yeah.
Well, we have party of 3 here, party of 5, party 2, and we try to lay it all out. And we started hearing from guests that said, or that would return because they became friends with the people they sat next to that they didn't know before the dinner.
Excellent.
And
That's
that was
the
one of
best.
those moments when you're like, we need more opportunities where people can meet people they don't know.
Yeah.
And so whether that's hanging out down on the Great Lawn by the animals, or they're sitting next to somebody at a dinner, like we live in a world right now where we're all busy, we're all working, we tend to hang out with people we already know or people that do what we do. What opportunities do we have to meet other people? It's not like we're all going to a playground and like meeting new people. And so we realize like this opportunity, you're going to have to help me. Weren't there a couple things I remember so many people saying like, we've become friends and we do this every year now, right?
Yeah, and there have been others, anecdotally, like people who met, like their kids were both playing in the playground or, petting an animal, and they ended up like agreeing, like, let's meet up next weekend, and they end up becoming friends and
That's
just,
amazing.
Community, like, right, which like for us is like one of the most touching things, the idea that people
Right,
became
right,
friends
exactly.
because of their connection at the farm.
We've even had now a couple of people that have gotten engaged on the farm.
Oh, so
We had one woman whose water broke in the sunflower maze. Okay. We've had
People come to celebrate their marriage at
Yeah.
the farm to play dinners.
anniversaries,
Absolutely.
birthdays.
Anniversaries of quite a few of those.
Yeah.
I love your sunflower maze. It's a magical
Wait
concept.
till next year. Because since we did the pumpkins where they were this year, that can go back to sunflowers. So we're going to have a 14-acre huge one again.
Oh,
That's
and
so
a little
beautiful.
surprise that you'll see.
Well, I want Kristen to talk about one of her favorite events at the farm,
Yeah.
but I do want to circle back because you said you haven't seen Jim cry very often.
Right.
We're criers. We cry all the time. I've seen Kristen cry many times, but one of my favorite moments that was the most surprising that I saw Kristen cry was when she tasted terroir in a meal that we were eating. And that, as you were talking about your meal, it just brought me back to the importance of like feeling connected to earth and land and place and where our food comes from and our nourishment comes from, adding into that element of building community. Like it is and I mean, for anyone who hasn't experienced your farm to table dinners, they are these beautiful, long, gorgeous tables that sit out under the oak tree that are a big community gathering. It's not the two top tables anymore. It's now this long table. And I think it personifies the longer table concept. I don't know if you know that story, but the idea that when plenty is given, instead of hoarding your resources, you build a longer table. And you all do that in everything you do. Like you constantly invite people in and create space for people. But the fact that in this time where I think we're in what's been coined a connection recession, that like we're lacking connectivity, we're lacking friendship. There was actually a study that just came out about the fact that the Mumdani race was so successful because young people felt a connection to other people again. That like sense of how do we become friends, you're creating that with space and space for everyone. Dinner, concert series, play on the farm, pet the animals, and your favorite event.
Well, I also am an introvert. And so when the reading nights started on the farm, it was
like magic.
I came squealing out and was like, I bought us tickets to this thing. I didn't even ask you. Reading is one of my top one things to do.
One of my top ones.
One of my top ones as an introvert. And so to be able to go to the farm to get a glass of something delicious and to sit under a 500-year-old oak tree with people and quietly read together, it's amazing. And there is, and I'm going to say this and people can roll their eyes all they want, but in that activity, by nature of being together in space, even though we are not talking, a band isn't playing, all of those things, you can feel.
They do have a little music in the background.
Yeah, but I just mean it's not central to what's happening. There is an energy vibe that's happening. There is a resonance that's happening between folks sharing that space together who don't actually want to talk to each other for the most part. You know, it's like we all kind of, but I appreciate the diversity of experience you open up for people on your farm. So if you want to go out and rock out, go for it. If you want to get amazing food at a wonderfully designed marketplace, go for it. I also appreciate that every year you up the game.
Yeah.
The gazebo this year.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
Was that your idea?
Yeah, but
Kat, that was your idea, right?
Yeah.
the farm is just one big, huge art project.
Yes.
We wanted to do like something like with a lot of pumpkins, like a display.
Right.
And Kat, like, I don't know, you figured out like the gazebo is going to be the spot.
Yeah, and we wanted to make the pumpkins really close together, and so I basically, my brother helps us build a lot of things. He's amazing. He can weld.
We
he can build.
met your brother that day when we went.
I think he was getting
gazebo.
roped into another project.
Yeah.
He's not friendly like Kat.
I believe that's what you said then as well.
But he is the ultimate introvert, but he's extremely talented, luckily. And
So I said to him, "This is what I want to do," and he's like, "No, nope." He's like, "That's going to take so much steel, because each pumpkin needed to sit on like a little steel." Like I was like, "Why can't we just buy basketball hoops?" Right? Like I was trying to figure out, like you've got this, and he's like, "No, it's too expensive."
So you encased this gazebo. It's a like 8-sided gazebo.
It is.
You encased this gazebo from the exterior in pumpkins, but then color coordinated like the white pumpkins created one wall. And
Did you go inside?
Well,
yeah.
And that
Okay.
was the moment. I walked up to this going, wow, this is really incredible. Every single pumpkin, completely wrapping around the gazebo, every single pumpkin sat in its own little circle ring that your brother built beautifully. And it created this beautiful, like, shade shelter on a hot day, too. But we walked in and I was like, this is so cool. And I looked up and I was like, oh my God. And the whole like mandala ceiling you created with a floral treatment was this, I never wanted to leave. I just wanted to sit in there and like meditate or speak to the fairies or something.
Well,
it was amazing.
Let me tell you a couple behind the scenes because we also loved it. And so now we're like, what are we going to do to the gazebo next? So if you were to go out to the farm right now.
A gingerbread house for the
We turned
holidays,
a gingerbread
right?
house, but if you noticed, we were going to put like candies on it. And next thing you know, we abandoned all of that and we just recreated paintings from Maria Pyronchenko. She was a Ukrainian artist. She's been dead for many decades, but most all of her work was just destroyed in the war. And so we were like, we need to get this art out. We need more people to see her art because basically she lived on a farm, so all she did was paint farm animals, right? And apparently I've learned she was Pablo Picasso's favorite artist. So folks should check her out. But anyway, so we decided to do the paintings around it. Well, I got to back up because there's so many pieces to this. I painted the sheep that's over the baby barn. So I was really looking forward to this. But like, we had a lot to do and I had to go get knee surgery and there was all this stuff going on. So I had to learn to let go. And so a bunch of staff was like, I want to paint. And so everybody came out to paint it. Well, that's what happened with the pumpkins too. So Peter's like, no, this is too expensive. And I remember we had to sit him down and say, we're okay with spending the money for the steel because we felt like we could reuse it every year.
Yeah.
And it would be this beautiful, like, spot for folks. And so he went and he got different steel and he tested and he built all these prototypes until we got one that, didn't bend. It was strong enough to hold up the pumpkins. So I'm not necessarily very realistic about how much time things take. And so he had all of these made and I asked two of the guys to come with me and I was like, it'll just be like half an hour. Will you help me put up all the pumpkins? Well, how long did it end up taking?
A couple days.
It was probably 2 days, yeah.
2 days. At one point, there were a lot of people working on it with you.
Yeah, there were.
It was a project.
But the best part is Wyden and Kennedy had like a day on the farm. They brought
This
a whole
is an
bunch of
advertising
folks.
firm in Portland, for those who don't know.
Yes.
So why
this,
didn't Kennedy?
This group of creatives were sitting there. I think, didn't Wildcraft come out and they were teaching them how to like dye with the blue Japanese prints?
Right.
So they're sitting there under the tent. So that's like, 50 feet from the gazebo? They're having their art
Team building day.
and we're over here trying to put up pumpkins. And I didn't like make the connection that there was someone going to be doing art projects that day. And we're doing art project. And I remember just thinking like, I don't know. It was just magical. So we get all of it in. And then Fiona, who oversees our flowers, Fiona came to start putting the flowers on the inside. And we realized there was a bat living right in the top. So we were like, okay, guess we can't do this today. And so we redesigned what the shape of the flowers were so that we wouldn't disturb the bat. And there's so many things that change. Like we've learned to be really, really flexible. Like one of the things I love about the Farm to Plate dinners is for 2 years, there was a a barred owl that would come and have her babies in the box that we put on the tree. Well, they're nocturnal. So she would come out every evening around dinner time. And so as you're eating your dinner, you see this, owl come and fly. In fact, that very first Farm to Plate dinner that we were hiding behind the tree, there was a hawk that came down and grabbed a field mouse. And you could just hear everyone go, right? Like, how did they plan that? And there's so many, like the great thing about being like, I can't do everything myself, right? Is other people want to play.
Yeah.
Other people want to come and be part of that. And so when you're talking about community and you're talking about like storytelling, a lot of the folks that work on the farm are extremely artistic, but they're stuck doing what I want. And so to be able to like, come on, play, pick which color pumpkins you want here, or you can paint this, or those big structures. Did you see those bamboo structures?
Yes, they're gorgeous.
We had zero to do with that other than our neighbor kept saying, I got bamboo. Can't you use it for something? I got bamboo. And so Luis is like, I've got an idea. And we're like, go ahead,
Amazing.
And he made the barf. for the farm to plate, and it was so beautiful that we're like, let's do some in the parking lot. Let's do some for the sweet peas to grow up, right?
So in the flowers, you made the hut, the farm to plate, the stage backdrop. He's made a whole bunch of structures.
awesome.
Yeah, super creative.
And
That's
you know, the biggest fear we had, tell me if I'm remembering wrong, but the biggest fear we had when we got the farm was, how are we going to get good people? How are you going to get good people when you're only open for a few months a year? How are you going to do it? And it's part-time for most of them.
Right. You might be able to get them for a few months, but
Yeah.
then are you
Yeah.
going to ever see them again?
And we thought that was going to be the biggest challenge. And instead, it has become, I think, this kind of like favorite part of the farm.
Yeah.
You know, like I get really sad. I have a really hard time at the end of the summer. I kind of take off for a couple days and stay in the fields, because when all the kids are going back to college, it's so sad.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
I
so
bet.
sad. And I do the same thing on that last day, when like last day in October, I'm like, I gotta go do this. It's so hard, because you know you're not going to see everybody for a while. So we're slowly changing that. Like we decided to do these Christmas trees, and we always do a Christmas drop, and we're going to do something around, like we're doing stuff more often in the off season so that everybody can
You
come
have the
back.
touch
Yes.
points. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I feel like you've created something that is inspiring. It centers community more than anything, and it invites people really to connect with each other. So we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to step into the fundraising elevator. We'll be right back.
Change. It doesn't happen on its own. It happens on purpose. Thanks to nonprofits that believe a brighter future is not just possible, but needed and deserved. And that connect people to causes and turn moments of generosity into movements. That's why Bloomerang is built for purpose, to raise the bar on what's possible and help every act of giving lead to more. Because when the bottom line is a better world, no goal is too lofty. Bloomerang, built for purpose.
Welcome back. We're here talking to two great humans, Kat and Jim, who
Right
have
back
built
at you.
a magic place at Topaz Farm. We ask all of our guests to join us in the fundraising elevator, where we're all headed up. You two are great hosts and put such intention in the experiences that you invite folks into in your space. What is a bit of wisdom you'd share with nonprofits right now for their gatherings?
You want to do it?
No, you got this.
Okay. It's gonna sound a little counterintuitive, but we get groups that will come out to the farm and they're really excited and they want to make it special. Maybe they're coming out for a dinner. They're like, oh, we want to be able to bring our guests to see the goats, and we want our guests to be able to go do a hayride, and we want our guests to be able to go pick berries or get flowers. And we've done enough of these that we try to tell, nobody listens to us, we try to tell them, all they need to do is come out and eat. You don't need to program all of these things. And what inevitably happens is, let's say there's 100 people or 200 people, 4 of them will go up and see the goats. And people, like, to have some downtime to be able to connect and talk to people that you've just met and not be rushed off to the next activity. We see it over and over. That's what people enjoy. And, you know, I don't know.
If you don't leave space in events for people to connect, they will do it anyway, even if that isn't your agenda.
Right. Well, and it's like the dinners. Like, we don't tell people the dinners start at 7 when they start. We tell them they start at 6. And that is part of, it's like almost like the foreplay of the dinner,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, you need time, whether you're talking to people you've never met before, or you're talking to your guests, or you're wandering. So by the time that you do sit down to eat, like, you're really, you're ready. There's pacing to it. And I think there's so many folks that try too hard that we're all so overprogrammed. We're all so busy. It's just really lovely because when you're not booked, all of a sudden you might notice that bald eagle that just flew over, or you might notice, something, or you might strike up a conversation.
Right, with strangers, or better connections with your friends or your acquaintances or coworkers or whatever it is, right? If the environment is a quality environment, or the food and the environment is right, you don't need all the extra
Yeah.
distractions.
And maybe
try that.
also coming to the farm, people aren't on their phones.
Or not on their phones.
They're
you
not
said.
on their phones. So it's
Yeah.
really easy for everyone to be accessible. and they're not on their phones because we have no reception. And I remember when we bought the farm, we were like, this is going to be a problem. And we realized it was the opposite.
Yeah,
you know?
it's a gift.
Yeah, the world is happening.
Well, I feel
world
like
is
you're sort
happening.
of the medicine we all need right now in the world. The world feels to me like it's sort of sitting in this place where we've been told we're so far apart. And yet I think we're more alike than we think. And you all create a place that centers people, centers we, creates community, brings people together in unexpected ways. So we were honored.
And you get some really great bands.
And really great bands. We're so honored to be able to share your story. We're so excited that there's still a farm to go to, that the legislative initiative shifted. We are going to link in our show notes to the farm so people can find it, but also link to the video that you shared that went viral so other folks can see it. And if folks want to come to the farm, I know that sometimes it's not just a wander through the fields and pick your pumpkin, because you have a specific philosophy about creating space that feels calm versus crowded. So how do people find their way to the farm and book time on the farm?
Well, coming up, we'll have a really lovely, I guess our third year doing an Easter celebration, a non-crowded. We took our kids to enough ones where there was a lot of crying and stress. This is designed to be a mellow, happy, no crying experience.
It is. It's very fun.
And then we roll into Mother's Day with a Farm to Plate family event, picnic, and then Holi, which is the South Asian Festival of Colors, which is kind of our unofficial kickoff of the season.
Right.
It was a really joyful event. We've got a series of ticketed events coming up, and then once we open to the public, basically in June, for the U-Pick and the markets open and the grill. Those are free for those who want to come just to see the animals or walk around the farm, but that's also right when we just about to get into the concert series and the Farm to Plate series and these other ticketed events. And then it kind of culminates in the fall with the fall harvest. We didn't talk about creating a ticketed event for that and how much that changed the whole experience for the fall harvest in a good, meaningful way. And
there's a lot of things you forgot.
I can't cover them all.
No, I was going to say, because if anyone that wants to drop off their Christmas trees can on the first weekend of January.
That's true.
Then the Bird Alliance of Oregon comes out in February, another free event where folks can come out and have folks help them, spot raptors and talk about different birds, and they have all their binoculars and hot chocolate. You brought up the silent reading parties. We didn't really go into much detail about that, but folks come to us all the time. That was Audrey Van Buskirk and Chris Lydgate, and they came to us with this idea. And folks come all the time with ideas, and we're like, that sounds great, let's do it. And so there's things that help us be open other than the main season, which is the warmer months and the fall.
Well, you have become full-time farmers and full-time event planners side by side. We are so grateful for the space and the time together, and we thank you for joining us today on the Fundraising Elevator. And we hopefully we've inspired a couple of folks to maybe think about how they gather their people and gather and connect to their community, because I think it's such a important antidote right now to the world of craziness going on out there. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're right here at Avenue in Portland, Oregon, or joining us online, it is time to take our fundraising event to school.
Gathering is just so important right now. It's always been important, but I think being with your people is extremely important.
Your guests should believe in your organization and understand that they are the community that make it possible. Their power combined with others is immense. We need spaces where people remember that the world is changed by those who show up together, who act together, who give together.
I think I've been coming to Elevate since Elevate started. It is every year, there is fresh new content that is very much tailored to the moment that we're in. And it's easy to know that we are in a moment.
Events are changing. The landscape of Portland is changing, so it's nice to be in a room where new ideas are coming up.
Last year I came to this event and we were introduced to this event arc. With that event arc, we increased our funding that evening by 23%. 23.
I love the atmosphere. I love the energy. I'm already thinking about the events this year and how they can be better. Samantha Swaim and Kristen Steele are geniuses. Geniuses. I cannot tell you how incredible and thoughtful they are when it comes to how you should set up your event for ultimate success.
Because the people in this room, you can feel the passion that they have for their nonprofits, for the events that they put on for their communities, and Feather wants to be a part of that. So we have loved the vibe since the moment we stepped in the room.
At North by Northeast, I am currently our Development and Communications Director, and it's really been great for me to use all those skills that I've had, both learning from Samantha and from Elevate.
The AV department has been a partner with Elevate since the very first year in 2018. It's one of the ways that we can support our nonprofit partners to make their events shine and get better every year.
I attended last year, and that was also my first time in the Avenue, and I was blown away by the production quality of this space. I loved the live streaming aspect. It was so fun.
Elevate's such a lively room, and there's so many great people. I've run into so many people that I know as community partners and colleagues, and it's just a really joyful experience to be here in community with everybody that's helping to support the important nonprofits in Portland.
I've already started building a network, and I've learned so much all before lunch. My hand is cramping from all the notes that I've taken.
Just having everybody share insights from every direction, even if you thought you knew everything, you're learning something.
We are, of course, in the development department of our nonprofit organization.
And just as in the name, we are looking to elevate our events and take it higher, raise more money for our families, and just do more with our nonprofit.
Humans give to humans. Every single donor, no matter the size of their gift, is doing something really meaningful.
Words, they're extremely powerful. That's why I'm here to kind of showcase little shifts in language that would help us continue to uplift our communities, particularly those of color.
They are in control of the story, of what's in it, whether it's a video or whether it's their speech, preparing them, and then also making sure that you highlight how their story is helping the organization.
The work you do matters. And what's more than that, you matter. It is critical that this feels like a community, not only that you can be a part of, but that you are a part of.
The Fundraising Elevator is produced by Swaim Strategies at the studios of the AV department. The program is produced and directed by Steve Osborne, with audio engineering and original music by Dwayne Anderson and Heidi Christensen. Video production by John Collier. Graphic design by Pendulum Creative Group. And voiceover by Josh Boykin.
Friends, before we leave you, we want to ask for your help to make the podcast grow. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please follow, subscribe to the Fundraising Elevator. And if you're getting a lot out of the show, please share it with a friend and leave a review. These things help make sure that the podcast continues heading up. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Are you ready to engage supporters and grow your base with your own podcast? Then let us introduce you to our partners at the AV department in Portland, Oregon. In addition to delivering exceptional live event audiovisual production and videography, they also have a top-tier production studio and an expert team ready to take your content ideas to the next level. Contact the AV department to schedule a consultation and start bringing your podcast vision to life.